But now Dolly
Good
Parton, she's the godmother of Miley Cyrus.
That's right.
How did that happen?
I ask myself that all the time. It's like every day. How did Dolly Parton? But it's kind of, I wish it was complex, but it's actually, when Achy came out, Dolly put me on her tour as an opening act. It wasn't long after that some of the headlines in the tabloids had Dolly and myself as, you know, pictures of us and saying something was going on. And I was so upset about it. I was afraid that she would be upset. I just hated that I was, and I really hadn't met her. And so I told my manager, it was a National Enquirer, I said, you think I could go meet Dolly and tell her how sorry I am about this? And my manager said, yeah, we're gonna make that happen. So before my show, I went to Dolly's dressing room and they escorted me in, and Dolly's sitting there all beautiful and just like an angel. And I came over and said, Miss Dolly, I'm so sorry about this. And I laid that tabloid on her dressing room table there. And it was right in front of her. And she looked at it, and then she looked at me and said, honey, that shit sells records. And I was, you know, and we laughed, and I never thought about it. Like, from that moment on, we became very good friends. Little did I know at that time, some 15 years later, she would end up becoming Aunt Dolly on Hannah Montana.
Molly Ray Stewart, I am not going to let you lie around here on this couch, drowning in self-pity and drooling all over my dry clean onlys. You got to move on.
And then her and Miley actually just fell in love. Like, it was kindred spirits. That sounds silly, but
no,
they were absolute. You could just feel it. From the second they met, it was two peas in a pod.
Well, now we're talking about your daughter Miley and the whole Hannah Montana, what should we call it, phenomenon. When you first got into the Hannah Montana business, did you have any idea that it was going to take off as it did?
It kind of was that same feeling that I had about Achy. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I felt like there was a void for what it was. I'm going to have to get on that coaster and go find out. And you're just going to have to let me.
Go get him, cowboy.
There wasn't a show with a real father and his real-life daughter and somewhat harnessing the synergy of our real family and our DNA. And I felt like there was something really good about it. I felt like the writing was funny, and you know, her character was originally called Kylie. But because I had called her Miley her whole life, every time I'd say her name, I'd say Miley. And one of the directors hollered, cut, cut, cut. And I thought, oh gosh, they're gonna ream me out again. It's about the third time I've done it. And they came out and made an announcement. They said, okay, everybody, listen up. Everything in the script that is called Kylie, change it to Miley. When I think back on that, I think that was a quintessential moment in Hannah Montana, the Disney Channel, that whole thing. I think it was important because of the realism. She was Miley. Like, Robbie Ray isn't that far from Billy Ray. Like, there was a lot of, I had said sweet niblets and dang flabbit my whole life. And that just became part of the lingo of Robbie Ray's character. But it was just stuff I'd always said, stuff my dad would say.
Every parent, in their own mind and heart, you do the best you can.
Do the best you can.
And hope for the best. But there comes a point when the child, as a small eaglet, has to fly. You have to let him fly. She's a woman now. It's not easy being a girl in show business and having to make that passage from being a girl to being a woman in show business. But looking back on it, what mistakes did you make as a parent, or did you make any?
Oh, I've made a lot of mistakes. That happens to be my expertise. That's the one thing I'm really good at, is making mistakes. But I will say, somewhere throughout my life, I've always had the ability to realize that when I make a mistake, I make adjustments. Knowing when the train's gone off the track and maybe when you should make a left instead of a right, knowing the difference, that's the key. Me and my kids, actually, we laugh about it. My daughter Noah says all the time, you know you're never going to get Parent of the Year. And we'll laugh and say, I'm positive of that. And then we'll do something crazy and laugh, and we all get knocked down. I just happened to get knocked down enough that I got good at getting back up.
You've just described a lot of struggle, and you had a lot of struggle. It's something people don't remember. You just described it. You said struggle. To claim peace with faith, family, and the power of music.
In some ways, that's a bit of our mantra, if you will. Without being too crazy,
Yeah.
you'll see that says faith. This says believe. And way up here where you can't see, it says music changes everything. The first tattoo I ever got on my body was right here. It said music changes everything. And I do find music to be a great healer. And I believe in the power of music, and believing in anything requires a faith in it. As you know, the Bible says faith without works is dead. Trust me, my faith is challenged every single day. Even as we're talking now, don't even look at me and think like that I think for a second that I'm holier than thou and that I know something that someone else doesn't know. That's not true. All the things that I went through, all the adjustments I had to make, if for any other reason, if there's some kid out there with a dream that could look at my life and say, if Billy Ray Cyrus can reach his dream, then I can reach mine also. And they go, how did you do it? I go, I failed and failed and failed. You have to accept that sometimes, that's the way you do it. You have to try. And it's just like baseball. Baseball's the best analogy of all for life. You ain't never gonna get a hit if you don't get up to the plate and swing. You gotta get up and swing. You keep swinging long enough.
Yeah, nobody ever made the major leagues with the bat on his shoulder.
That's true. That is, honestly, that is right.